was recruited based on how well I performed the first Trump term, but to really bring together this conservative spear from all over and really say, look, guys, we disagree about a lot of things, but we agree about more. And maybe there's 60 or 70% we can put our heads together. If we don't come together and vote, the whole thing's for naught, and the Democrats will run the table like Joe Biden was doing. I mean, you all experienced almost tyranny, right? They had us locked down with masks. They were telling us to take that jab. I'm what I would call unjabinated, okay? Not still not unvaccinated, okay? Because that's not even the vaccine. They famously changed the definition of vaccine. And I can say that as the son of a professor at Johns Hopkins. That's when my dad was a kind of famous doctor who, grew up poor. They didn't even have hot water in his slum where he grew up, and then ultimately got to that level. But, somebody went to MIT, and I can face off against these people. That's what I'm going to do. But what we were dealing with was tyranny. And we said, let's get together on the same page. And I said, look at the left. They're always getting together for what to do when they're out of power. We have to borrow their page, their playbook, and do it ourselves. So I built this project 2025. It was planned to be systematically prepared day one. And I pitched it like Hollywood. In Hollywood, they say, oh, this is Gone with the Wind meets Ghostbusters with a little bit of this thrown in, right? So I said, look, this is the Manhattan Project meets the Empire State Building meets D-Day. You have to bring the best minds together like they did in Manhattan Project to solve an existential threat, which is really the end of our republic. It's going down the tubes with the debt, with the takeover of the bureaucrats, with the pushing the people out of their own government. Two, we have to do this in about a year's time. The Empire State Building was famously built in a year, and it changed the skyline forever. It was just kind of how people did things back in the day. They built it and they didn't, mess around. And then finally, we needed D-Day. We needed to hit the beach like all these guys did. We needed meticulous planning ahead of time, and then we needed to make it wave after wave after wave. And that's what I did. I set together under the Heritage Foundation, ultimately marshaling couple thousand volunteers, 100 organizations. I led them. People know me because I get along well with people. But as I was trying to tell you, I don't bend at the end of the day. I'm someone you can trust to go to Washington as a core conservative. My whole life has been marked by that. But what I do well is to tell people to knock it off at points and say, this is important. Otherwise, we're all going to be goners. And that's what we did. We built Project 2025. It became such a thing. The left knew how threatening it was. They made it their number one issue. I sometimes say, we published the source code to the deep state. I told them the personalist policy, the number one thing you have to do if you want your policies in place is get the right personnel on there first. Right. You think it's elemental, but somehow it had been over everyone's head. And we rediscovered the wheel and did it. And the Democrats made a big mistake about it. Ultimately, they lost the landslides. What I think Project 2025 did, separate than the narrative, is it actually brought people together to believe there was something even more that Trump was going to do, that he would have a plan if you voted for him. And that's what he did. CJ was saying about 80% of what's coming out of the admin, most of the stuff you really like, came across my desk in the last 3 years. So many of you never heard of USAID. Okay, I've been working on that for 3 years and take that.
Yes,
these volunteers who I worked with, who we inspired. About 3 years ago tonight, I brought these folks together on the Thanksgiving Eve and read them